90 days. That is how long the food lasts. When that hatch locks, the world outside stops existing. No sunlight, no weather, no phone calls, no news. The last natural thing any of them will see for 3 months is the sky through that circle of steel. And then it is gone. 377 feet long, 33 feet across, $3.4 billion, a nuclear reactor, 12 Tomahawk cruise missiles, and 135 human beings sealed inside a metal cylinder at the bottom of an ocean they cannot see. This is not a warship tour. This is what it feels like to live inside one. The first thing you lose is space. A Virginia-class submarine has 94 bunks for 135 sailors. That is 41 fewer beds than people. The solution is something the Navy calls hot racking. 3 sailors share 2 bunks on rotating shifts. When you finish your 6-hour watch and crawl into your rack, the mattress is still warm from the body that just left. You pull the curtain. The 12 inches of fabric is the only privacy you will have for 90 days. And you close your eyes in a bed that smells like someone else's sleep. Your personal storage is a tray under the mattress the size of a carry-on suitcase. Everything you own for 90 days fits in that tray. Photos. 1 change of civilian clothes you will not wear. A book, maybe 2. That is your locker, your closet, and your home. The entire crew shares 1 washer and 1 dryer. Clean clothes become a negotiation. You learn quickly what clean enough means. You stop smelling yourself after 48 hours. You stop smelling everyone else after a week. Submariners call it earning your fish. The smell of a deployed submarine is a mixture of diesel exhaust from the emergency backup engine, recirculated cooking grease, hydraulic fluid, and 135 bodies that shower 3 times a week if the water rations allow it. Officers get staterooms. That sounds better than it is. 2 or 3 officers share a space the size of a bathroom stall. The captain is the only person aboard with his own room. It doubles as his office. It is smaller than a walk-in closet. His bed folds down over his desk. When the bed is down, he cannot open the door. This is the most private space on a $3.4 billion war machine. A sealed steel tube underwater. 135 people exhaling carbon dioxide into a space with no windows and no vents. If nothing is done, CO2 concentration hits dangerous levels in 12 hours. Unconsciousness in 18. The submarine has to manufacture its own atmosphere. The primary oxygen source is electrolysis. An electrical current powered by the nuclear reactor splits seawater into hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen is pumped into the ventilation system. The hydrogen is expelled into the ocean. This process generates enough oxygen to keep 135 lungs working indefinitely. The limiting factor is not air. It is the machine that makes it. If the generator fails, backup oxygen candles, canisters of sodium chlorate and iron powder, can be ignited to produce breathable oxygen through a chemical reaction that runs at 600 degrees Fahrenheit. Lighting a 600-degree candle inside a sealed metal tube surrounded by weapons and fuel is exactly as dangerous as it sounds. The Navy does it anyway, because the alternative is suffocation. Carbon dioxide is the quieter killer. You do not notice it building. Headaches come first, then fatigue, then confusion. Then you stop making good decisions, and on a submarine, a bad decision can kill 135 people. CO2 is removed by scrubbers that pass the air through soda lime, a mixture of sodium hydroxide and calcium hydroxide that traps carbon dioxide molecules in a chemical reaction. These scrubbers run 24 hours a day. If they stop, the crew has about 6 hours before cognitive function degrades. Then there is the air itself. The temperature inside the sub is held between 72 and 77 degrees. Humidity is kept below 50%. The reactor spaces run hotter, well above 100 degrees. The sonar dome at the bow runs cooler because the ocean temperature seeps through the hull. Moving from one end of the submarine to the other can feel like walking between seasons. The air smells different every week. fresh paint during maintenance periods. Try cooking grease when the galley is running, a faint chemical sweetness from the scrubbers, and underneath it all, the constant tang of machine oil and recycled human breath. New crew members notice it immediately. By day 7, your nose surrenders. You stop smelling it. Former submariners say the hardest part of coming home is smelling real air again and realizing what they had been breathing for 90 days. The galley is 10 feet by 12 feet. In that space, 3 culinary specialists produce 600 meals a day for 135 people, 4 meals per day, on a schedule that rotates breakfast, lunch, dinner, and mid-rats, the midnight meal for the watch crew. The food aboard a U.S. submarine is the best enlisted food in the entire military. That is not opinion, it is budget line. The Navy allocates more money per sailor per day for submarine food than any other platform. The reasoning is clinical. In an environment with no sunlight, no open space, and no freedom of movement, food is the last controllable source of morale. If the food is bad, everything falls apart faster. For the first 2 weeks, there are fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, fresh milk. After that, it is frozen, canned, and dried. But the cooks make it work. Saturday night is pizza, dough made from scratch. Sunday is surf and turf. Wednesday is Italian night with fresh baked bread. The bread matters more than you think. Former submariners consistently rank the smell of baking bread as the single most important comfort during deployment. It is the only thing aboard that smells like home. The mess seats 24 people at a time, 135 crew, 4 meals per day. Eat 24 seats. Meals run in continuous shifts. You eat in 15 minutes because someone is waiting for your seat. The mess also serves as the movie theater, the classroom, the briefing room, and in an emergency, the operating table. The same surface where you eat dinner on Tuesday could be where the corpsman removes your appendix on Wednesday. The submarine carries enough food for 90 days. After that, the mission has to end or a resupply has to happen, which means surfacing, which means revealing your position. On a nuclear submarine, the reactor can run for 33 years. The oxygen system can run indefinitely. The only thing that forces a $3.4 billion submarine to surface is the fact that humans need to eat. The stomach is the weakest link in the war machine. There is no morning on a submarine, no evening, no dawn, no dusk, no change in light, no change in temperature, no change in sound. The hum is the same at 3 a.m. as it is at 3 p.m. Your body has no reference points. Day 1 feels long. Day 7 feels shapeless. By day 30, former submariners describe a sensation they call the blur, a state where weeks collapse into each other and the only way to know what day it is becomes the meal schedule. The Navy tried to solve this with an 18-hour day, 3 6-hour watch cycles in a row, 6 hours on watch, 6 hours for maintenance and training, 6 hours for sleep. 18 total. Then it repeats. The problem: the human body runs on a 24-hour circadian rhythm. Forcing it into an 18-hour loop creates chronic desynchronization. A 2024 study published in the journal Sleep found that submariners on 18-hour cycles averaged 5.9 hours of subjective sleep per night and showed measurable cognitive decline after 30 days. Some boats have switched to a 24-hour schedule. The results are better. But the damage comes from something deeper than watch rotation. It comes from the absence of everything your brain uses to anchor itself in reality. No sunrise, no weather, no variety of scenery, no random encounters with strangers, no ambient noise from the outside world. Your brain is designed to process change. On a submarine, almost nothing changes. The same corridor, the same hum, the same faces. For 90 days, entertainment is limited. A shared library of DVDs, a small collection of books, one exercise bike, and a set of free weights shared by 135 people. Some crews run tournaments, poker, chess, video games on a shared console. Movie night in the mess happens when the schedule allows. but the treadmill gets turned off during silent running because the rhythmic footsteps can be detected on enemy sonar from miles away. Your workout becomes a security risk. Communication with the outside world barely exists. Submarines receive messages through extremely low-frequency radio that can penetrate water. The transmitting reveals your position. Emails are limited to a few hundred characters, text only, sent in batches when the submarine briefly approaches periscope depth. No photos, no phone calls, no video. The bandwidth is less than dial-up internet from the 1990s. A sailor whose wife gives birth will learn about it in a 3-line message days after it happens. This is the part of submarine service that no one sees in the recruiting videos. Not the weapons, not the missions. The slow erosion of your connection to everything above the waterline. Former submariners describe the first few days back on land as overwhelming. Too much light, too many sounds, too much space. The world feels too big. One veteran put it this way: going underwater for 90 days is the easy part. Coming back to reality is the adjustment nobody warns you about. 130 people in a steel tube. Friction is not possible, it is guaranteed. Submarine crews have developed unwritten rules that prevent confined spaces from becoming hostile ones. You do not slam a door. Someone is always sleeping 3 feet away. You do not discuss politics. You do not play music without headphones. You learn to turn sideways in the passageway without making eye contact, because sometimes the kindest thing you can do for another person is pretend they are not there. The captain's cabin functions as an informal counseling office. When a sailor gets a message that a parent is sick, or a relationship ended, or a child took their first steps and they were not there, the captain's door opens. Not because there is a protocol, because in a space this small, pain is visible. And a crew that ignores pain is a crew that makes mistakes. What holds a submarine crew together is not discipline. Discipline keeps them functioning. What holds them together is the knowledge that every person aboard chose this. Submarine service is entirely volunteer. Nobody is assigned to a submarine against their will. Every person in that steel tube raised their hand and said yes. That shared decision creates a bond that surface sailors and civilians struggle to understand. You chose this suffering. So did the person next to you. That makes you family in a way that nothing else can. On day 90, the submarine rises. It is not dramatic. There's no captain yelling, "Surface." It happens slowly. The depth gauge moves. The angle changes. The hull groans slightly as the pressure outside decreases. And then, a sound that 135 people have not heard in 3 months. The ocean hitting the topside of the hull from above, instead of pressing against it from all sides. The hatch opens. The same circle of steel that sealed them in 90 days ago. The same wheel, the same hands, but different air. Cold, wet, full of salt and wind and a world that kept turning while they were gone. 135 people, 94 bunks, 1 washer, 1 dryer, 3 cooks in a kitchen smaller than your bathroom, air made from seawater, bread baked at 400 feet, sleep in shifts, privacy measured in curtain fabric, communication measured in characters, 90 days inside a steel tube that the ocean is constantly trying to crush. They will all volunteer to do it again.